Hey everyone, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Salesforce Epic Hours, and we are here in Salesforce Development Series 2024. So, my name is Amit Singh, and today we are going to talk about another OOPS concept that is polymorphism. In the previous video, starting from OOPS concept, then methods, then inheritance, and interface, we have talked about multiple concepts. Now we are going to take a look into another OOPS concept, and that is polymorphism. Who am I? My name is Amit Singh, as already talked about. I'm a YouTuber at SFDC Panther and Panther Schools. I would love to connect with you all over social media. Like you can see my QR codes on your screen. Please scan those and we can connect to our different social media channels. Without further delay, let me quickly talk about what polymorphism is. So, the reason I have not put the definition of polymorphism here again, because we already know, we have already talked about what polymorphism is. So, again, I'll repeat it. Polymorphism is basically doing a task in a different way is known as polymorphism. So, if there is a task, for example, is speaking, teaching, or creating the YouTube videos, these are the different tasks. If we do these tasks in a different way, that is known as polymorphism. Now, here, the example that you see on your screen is for making a coffee. So, if you talk about the example, the real world example that is for making a coffee, how you are going to make a coffee. There would be a coffee machine where you are going to select the type of coffee, either latte or espresso or filter coffee or the basic coffee you wanted to create. Then you have like the coffee machine is going to choose the grinders, the beans, how much amount of sugar you want, the milk, every single thing that coffee machine is going to choose for you. Now there could be different methods, different ways for brewing a coffee, because as a person you might wanted to brew only one coffee. Some person comes and that person wants to brew two coffee or four coffee. So the methods, the task is for brewing a coffee, and there are two different ways to brew a coffee. Brew a coffee that is going to be only single coffee, brew two or four or five that are going to be multiple coffees, but the task still remains same, brew a coffee, right? Let me talk about another example. Let's say that you wanted to add the numbers, right? You wanted to add the numbers. So if you say sum, right? You say sum. You give two numbers, the result is there. You give three number, the result is there. You give four number, the result is there. What all you're doing is you're just increasing the parameters and the result is same. What is the result or what is the process? Adding those numbers and giving you the final outcome. That is what, again, adding number is a process, is a task which is being done in a different way. Let's quickly see this in the action so that you can understood in a more better way. So again, here I am logged into my Salesforce developer org. Please go ahead, log into your Salesforce developer org and follow along with me. That is how you will learn. So what we are going to do is we are going to talk about creating the coffee. So we are going to create the coffee. We are going to not create, we are going to make a coffee and then we are going to drink that coffee after this lecture. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a class called basic coffee machine. This is a coffee machine which is going to give you the basic coffee. Okay. Now, as we talked about, this basic coffee machine can accept some parameter. It is definitely going to accept the parameter from you, the input. What type of coffee do you want? So let's create a constructor. Let's create a constructor of this class, basic coffee machine. And this is going to accept a one parameter that is a string type, the type of coffee that you want to brew. So as it is accepting a parameter and we want to store this parameter somewhere in the class, and then we can use it in our methods, we are going to create a parameter, a property here. We will say string type. This is our parameter, and here we will say this dot type equal to type. We already talked about what is this, what is super in the previous video. If you have missed that, please pause this video, go back to the playlist, get that video, which is the previous video, and learn about those concepts before moving forward here. So we have got this. Now let's quickly create a simple method which says public void brew coffee. This is a method which is going to brew the coffee. Let's create another method which is going to brew the coffee, and this time it is going to total numbers. It is going to take or accept an input parameter which is a type of integer that says, okay, I want to brew the coffee. How many coffee you want? How many coffee you want, right? So you selected a coffee, let's say latte. You selected the quantity, how many quantity you want, and then that machine is going to brew those number of coffees for you. Now this is not a typical coffee because we are developing our machine, so we can make this machine functional as per what we want. Okay, so the method name is same, but the parameters are different. And this is what, this is nothing, this is polymorphism. We have one task to brew the coffee, and we are just creating it. So let's say we say system dot debug, and we'll say this dot type. And in case of brew coffee, we'll say this dot type as well as total numbers. So basically it says how many number of coffee you want, and we are going to make those coffee for you. This is a simple and the simple way of explaining polymorphism. And this, my friend, is also known as method overloading. What we have just learned here is that is also known as method overloading. Method overloading. What we are doing is we are overloading a method with different number of parameters or with different return type. That is what your method overloading is. And method overloading will always be done in the same class. You cannot do method overloading with two different classes. Method overloading will always be done in the same class. In case of method overloading, methods will be same, but the number of parameters would be different. That is what method overloading is. That is what polymorphism is. So now if you want, let's quickly first test it. Let's quickly first test it. So we have this coffee machine, basic coffee machine. We are going to create the very basic constructor, not constructor, object. And here, let's say we are saying latte. I'm not sure if this is the correct spelling. If this is correct, good. If not, please excuse me. So this is accepting a single parameter, which is type of coffee that you want to brew. And then you can call this, say, coffee dot brew coffee, which is not accepting any parameters, which says, okay, you want one coffee. And on the other hand, you can also call the second parameter, the second method, passing two coffees. So there is one person who is making one coffee, then comes you making two coffees, right? So you're calling the same method, but what you are doing is just passing the different set of parameters. Now let's go ahead and execute this, and we will see the different debugs that we have added into our methods. And here is this, like we've got latte, total number of coffee is 2, and the type of coffee that we want is latte, right? So this line number 9 is inside our method brew coffee, which does not accept any arguments, but the line number 13 and 14 are inside our another method which accepts one argument, that is type of integer. Okay, now There could be multiple real-time examples for this. And I'm going to take you the real-time example which Salesforce itself has. Okay. How Salesforce does the things for simple record creation. Okay. So let me tell you how you can create a simple record in Salesforce with the help of the constructor that Salesforce provides. So if you go to the anonymous window, and so let me again add a disclaimer here. This could be the topic that you might learn in the coming videos. So if you don't understand, please do not think much about it. Please do not think much about it. Just try to see what I'm saying and you will see the difference. Okay. So whenever in Salesforce, you need to create an object, the record of an object. It could be standard or custom object. So for example, you wanted to create the record of standard object, which is account. So first of all, what you will do is you will create an instance of that object. Okay. Now this is a constructor, as we talked about. Account is a class. And then next part in the right hand side is nothing is a constructor. Now here you can pass parameters like this. You say name equal to, let's say, apexhours.com. apexhours.com. This is one. This constructor is accepting one parameter. Okay. Now, if I talk about another one, I say name and then I say industry. Industry is equal to education. This is another constructor accepting two parameters. So one class can have multiple constructor depending on the number of parameters, the orders of parameters. Okay. Now, when you try to insert this, there are multiple ways to insert, and the very common way is to use an insert keyword and then just put the object name here, like ACC. If you do like this, an account with the name Apex Hours will get created inside my account, inside my Salesforce developer org. Now to insert, there is another way of inserting with the help of a method which is name as insert itself inside a class called database. So what we do is we say, okay, database.insert, and we say ACC. This is one thing. Again, inside this database class itself, there is another method with the same name insert, and it accepts the list of records. So you can say new list of account, ACC and ACC1. What we are doing is we are creating the record using the same method. The task is to create a record, but you see the signatures of methods are different. Then there is another method with the same name, which accepts the list of records or single record, which takes a Boolean parameter, which is either true or false. You see, same name is there, different parameters, the method is like the task is same. All I'm trying to say so here is that there could be one method name inside a class with multiple different parameters for the single purpose. That is what polymorphism is, my friend. It is like a person with different faces, a person with different faces. Now, if you want to see this document, you just go to Google and search for database class plus Salesforce. If you do this, you'll get the link, and here you will find all the methods. We're talking about insert only because there are many more like update, delete, convert lead. There are many more, but we are just talking about insert. And as soon as you search, you do a control F, you say insert, and you will see there are how many methods? Somewhere around 138, right? So there are 8 different methods. And this is nothing. Salesforce is following polymorphism. That's what I wanted to tell you. That's what I wanted to tell you here. Okay. Now we have talked about polymorphism. We have seen the examples here. We have seen how to learn, how to do it. We have seen how Salesforce itself implemented it. And we have multiple use cases we talked about, like inserting a record. For example, let's create a class, and that class would be, I'm just going say, let's say we are going to create a class called invoice handler. So there is a custom object. Assume that there is a custom object invoice, and you need to create the object of invoice. So you say, okay, public void insert. You have a method insert which accepts a single parameter, something called invoice, like this. Okay, invoice record. You say, okay, if you have multiple invoices, just call the same method and pass the different parameter, and we'll say invoices, right? Then you can also say, okay, if you have multiple parameter, if you have multiple invoices or single invoice, okay, and you want us to catch the error, if there is any error comes, pass a Boolean parameter, which tells us if it is a true, then we are going to catch the error. If false, we are going to throw an error. So there, this method actually is doing, like this class invoice handler is actually trying to create the record of the object called invoice, providing the same method and with the different parameters. We are done. I don't have an object with invoice, that's why it is giving me an error. But you could see here, this is how we can define multiple methods with the same name with different parameters. Okay, that is the real world example that I have talked about using polymorphism. Now let's talk about the next concept, which is types of polymorphism. And yes, we have types of polymorphism as well. There are two different types of polymorphism that are available for any programming language that supports OOPS concept. And the first one is static polymorphism, that we also say compile time polymorphism. Then there is something comes as dynamic polymorphism, that we also say as runtime polymorphism. And let me tell you, my friend, we have already covered static polymorphism. We have already covered static polymorphism. How whatever we have seen, whatever we have seen inside basic coffee machine, it is nothing. It is a static, it is a compile time polymorphism, where whenever we are trying to save the record, compiler itself is checking if there is any error or not and letting us know. Then what is this dynamic polymorphism or runtime polymorphism? So dynamic polymorphism and runtime polymorphism can be achieved with the help of inheritance. Yes, that is why we covered inheritance before covering the polymorphism. So dynamic polymorphism is something which can be achieved with the help of abstraction, with the help of inheritance. And how we can achieve it? We can achieve it with the help of method overriding, with the help of method overriding. And how? Let me quickly talk about a simple scenario here. We have created a class which says basic coffee machine. This is the basic of any coffee machine. Now, if you want to create the premium coffee machine like espresso, right, or some other high quality coffees that you wanted to provide in your office premises. So what you will do is you'll say, okay, we have got a very basic coffee machine. Now let's make sure that this class, this basic coffee machine, is a abstract or virtual class. This is a virtual class. So now we are going to make sure it is a virtual class. And any method that this has, we are going to make those method as virtual, so that if anyone wants to use basic coffee machine, they can always use basic coffee machine. They just select what kind of coffee they want. They just select the coffee beans, and coffee machine is going to do the grinding and give you the coffee. But what if there are some category of employees whom you want to serve the premium coffees like espresso and other coffees, right? So for that, what you will do is you will say, okay, let's create another class which is going to be premium, which is going to be premium coffee machine. And this machine is going to extend the basic coffee machine. Okay. This machine is going to extends the basic coffee machine. So whatever you have got as a baseline, now let's extend it to make it more premium. And as usual, we have to create a constructor. Otherwise, we will get an error. Otherwise, we will get an error. Okay. And I will also tell you one more thing which we missed in the previous video. But before that, let's cover this. So let's create the constructor, and that constructor actually accept the type. What is the type of your coffee? And you call the constructor of your super class by providing the number of parameters that your constructor needs. And let me tell you, my friend, even if your parent class does not have any constructor defined here, it will have a default constructor, and you always need to call the default constructor here as well by calling the super keyword, by calling the super method. How? Let's say we are defining another method which is a default constructor of your coffee machine, basic coffee machine class. This is the default constructor of your basic coffee machine class. So what you have to do is you have to call the default constructor of your superclass using the super keyword. And in your child class, which is extending the parent class, the first statement in your constructor must be a super statement, must be a super statement. And as we see that there is an error, there could be only one super statement and not more than one. So if you see, call to super must be the first statement in the constructor method. And that is what we were talking about. And all these are very basic points I keep talking about. And please keep taking the notes. Very important thing is that please keep taking the notes. Okay. I'm going to comment out the first one, not needed. I just wanted to show you that if we use either of these, it will work. So let me comment out the line number 5. Just keep the line number 4, which is denoting the default constructor. And if we save it, the error is gone. And but we need to pass the type of coffee to our basic coffee machine so that our basic coffee machine can at least uh, get to know what type of coffee we want. Either it is latte, espresso, or other coffees. Okay. Then, as this is a premium coffee, we wanted to override the method. We wanted to override the methods which are there in basic coffee so that we can generate the premium coffee. So how we will override it? How we will override it? Let's quickly copy this. How we will override it? Using override keyword. Using override keyword. And this, my friend, is known as method overriding. We have already talked about in the previous video, and this is known as method overriding. So if I have to summarize it, basically run the static polymorphism or the compile time polymorphism is that can be achieved with the help of method overloading, but runtime polymorphism or compile time polymorphism will be achieved with the help of method overriding. Now it says, yeah, there are no, it says a method. Okay. So here we see some errors in the console in the problem section, which says variable is not visible basic coffee machine dot type. And why it says, because in line number 9, we are trying to print a variable which says this dot type. we have no variable declared on top of our premium coffee machine class, but we are trying to access this type variable. And this type variable is defined in our parent class, which is basic coffee machine. But if you go to this class, you will find that the default access modifier for this variable is private. And private variables cannot be accessed outside the class. Outside the class, so you will get this error. So what if you don't want to make this variable public, but still you want to make this variable visible inside the child class? You don't want to make this variable or this method public, but still wants to make these variables and methods visible inside the child class. How you will do that? If you have any guesses, put down into the comment section. Okay. And now let me tell you, there is something called some keyword, some access modifier called protected. So we have to make the keyword, make the variable, make the method as protected. So what will happen? What this protected does is, protected says that you can access this variable inside the class and the class which is inheriting that particular class. So because basic coffee machine is the parent class, we have defined this variable type as protected. So what will happen? This variable type is accessible throughout this basic coffee machine class, as well as the class which is extending this basic coffee machine, which is premium coffee machine. So if I try to save this now, we should be able to get rid of the error, and we are, right? So that is what the benefit of protected is. So if you don't want your variables to be accessed outside the class, but that can be accessible inside the class, which are the child class, use the protected keyword. Now you are done. You have extended the capability of your basic coffee machine to provide the premium coffee machine, and that is what called as runtime polymorphism. Compiler doesn't know at the compile time that what will happen, but at a runtime compiler will know that, okay, this method, which is already defined in basic coffee machine, is overridden here. So I have to do what is here, what is added here in this method. That is what runtime or dynamic polymorphism is. So this is it all about polymorphism, the types of polymorphism, how you implement it, what is the static, what is the dynamic polymorphism, what is method overloading, and what is method overriding. Let me tell you, my friend, a very basic question for the interview, that is, what is difference between method overloading and method overriding? Go ahead, put your answer into the comment section, and I'll see how many of you can answer this correctly. Before you go ahead, before you sign off, please go ahead, uh, tag us in Twitter post, in LinkedIn post. Let us know, are you feeling excited? How are you feeling with this journey of Salesforce development? And as usual, as I said, please don't forget to subscribe our channel, press that bell icon so that you don't miss any communication from our side. And subscribe button, the number of subscribers is really a motivation for us. With this, I am Amit Singh signing off with the Oops concept series in Apex Hours YouTube channel. We'll see you in other videos. Thank you.